Wow, attempt number 2, because it seems like my camera just fell asleep and got bored about what I was talking about and just decided to stop. Or it could be the fact that, it's got a 30-minute time limit. So I probably should really buy myself that Panasonic GH5, not for the 4K that it has versus the 1080 I only have in the G6, but just so I can talk for 3 hours and send everybody else to sleep too. Anyway, the other thing was I also had my screen there. I had it folded back because I do find it very irritating and disconcerting seeing myself there, and it's just also my eyes sort of will focus over on the screen instead of at the lens, and I just find it really weird seeing myself there. I mean, I find it really difficult and hard enough just trying to make these YouTube videos and with being self-conscious. But seeing the screen there makes it even worse. So I don't actually necessarily know how long I've been rolling for. But now I know I've been rolling for 1 minute and 19 seconds. So I'm going to try out this one video, actually watching myself. But anyway, I'm just going to tidy up a bit about what I was going to say, what I was saying, but it cut off, it didn't record. There's only a few more minutes, although I did talk long enough before so that it's the sun's setting, it's gone dark. I do seem to have an amazing knack for timing my videos just as the sun sets. So it's beautiful lighting when I start, but then I talk for too long and it's dark when I finish. Of course, the really bad example being my Standard Devices 833 video. So it's actually good I'd really set up these lights inside. And yeah, now I'm rolling again. I don't have to change anything, although I did open up the lens by one stop. Anyway, so I was at the point that I was talking about why Shure in the past has not been super popular at the high end, and why they've been starting to get more popular at the high end for, for instance, with people who are only cart space and can put up with only having rack units and not having the option of this, because at least Shure at last is giving them DC powered ones, not only to rely upon AC, and it's giving them more options for the transmitter packs, not just this, because okay, this is all well and good, it's your standard default pack size, but in our specialized line of work, we do need more options. We can't have this be our only one. So the fact that Shure now offers us also the really small sized ones, the really small transmitter packs, and they're partnered with X5D, is that their name? With that company that makes the rubberized soft ones that are even smaller and also waterproof. And just a few weeks ago, Shure brought out the Shure AD3 and presumably ADX3 in the future as well for your boom. So you've got the Phantom 48 power as well. That really sort of starts to open up the appeal that they've got now more options. Oh, by the way, when I said AD and ADX, because AD is so the AD1 transmitter that looks like this, just sort of gives very basic, I mean it does a job and it transmits audio, but it doesn't have the full access to all the amazing features of the Axient system, whereas the ADX1 body pack transmitter does. So the fact that they brought out the AD3, which is the butt plug boom transmitter that they've got, the fact that they have that and it is pretty basic, I mean it obviously works flawless audio, sounds great, but it doesn't have all the extra bonus features that Axient has. Like for instance, be able to remotely change frequency. I mean, fair enough, your boom op can just pop down and change it quickly. But it does make me think they're going to have an X version that will give you full access to the full power of Axient in the future that they'll probably release. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So, Shure, I guess, I sometimes have not the greatest opinion of them in the past, if you asked me a couple of years ago, because they make a very wide range of products that cater from the smallest garage band, hobbyist, or small community theatre, or small local church, all the way up to the highest big act, multi-million-dollar production that has Beyonce or the Super Bowl or something like that. And they have products all the way in between too. And I guess because you see lots of the cheap stuff around the most, you tend to maybe think about that as what represents Shure sometimes, if you're not fully aware of their full product range. Well, Lectrosonics only makes premium professional gear. So here, Lectrosonics, you just sort of assume it is it is that high-end professional gear. But yeah, so I sort of looked a little bit more into Shure, and I realized, yeah, they are this really interesting mid-range. Well, no, it's not necessarily mid-range. It's like only one step below Axient Digital, so it's still very good. It's their second best product they have, and that is the ULXD system. And then the next step below that, they've got the QLXD system, and then they've got, you know, still like another 3 more product lines or more below that before you get down to the really low end stuff. So even the QLXD is still like several levels above their lowest end product. So yeah, so I started looking into them, and I thought, obviously Axient Digital is well outside my price range, but as I sort of looked at their prices on eBay, and I thought, you know, maybe I could pick up 1 or 2 Shure channels just to play with, dip my toe in, and have a little bit of a look-see as to how they are. Why did I say look-see? Should I be saying hear-see? We have such biased language often towards the visual aspect of stuff. Like how often we say, I'll keep an eye out for this, as opposed to I'll keep an ear out for them. Or again, like here am I saying, have a look-see. I don't know, whatever. I think it might be good to try to consciously use more sound positive language. Anyway, let's not get too philosophical. I'm going to be talking about the, so ULX and QLX. Now, so this doesn't have the features that Axient Digital has, like the ability to remotely change gain and frequency and to have like quad reception with like 4 different antennas for a single area. Like, anyways, it doesn't have like a whole bunch of features that Axient has, but it still represents some of their very best sound quality. So why I went with this is that from my research, I also got the impression that the QLXD is very, very similar, or in fact identical in terms of just pure sound quality to the ULXD. So in terms of sound quality, they are equivalent. The bigger differences come down to 2 areas. One, with the transmitter packs. Now, at first look, the transmitter packs for the QLXD and the ULXD are exactly the same. Like, I cannot tell any difference between them. Like, I have looked as careful from a physical perspective, just sort of looking at them. Like, if I try to see like, is a screw slightly different, or if they use like plastic instead of metal or something, like, no, they're exactly the same. They're very sturdily built, very, very solid feeling in the hand, and they feel great, and yeah, it looks great there. Now, the one, I mean, it makes sense too. Like, why are you going to be doing new tooling to make a different mold for when you can just share the same costs across it? The only difference is the fact that this has got a U there and that's got a Q there. And also inside it, the ULXD1 can transmit at a slightly higher power, so you should get slightly greater range. But these are completely interchangeable, by the way, as well. So you could, if you want to, use a QLXD transmitter pack with the ULX. So say you've got a ULX system and you lose the transmitter pack or gets broken, whatever, you want to spare. Well, if you're really tight on money, you could buy a QLXD1 instead. And likewise, if you've got a QLXD receiver and you want to squeeze out the absolute maximum possible working range with it, you could pair it with a ULXD1 transmitter, which is what I'm thinking about. The one downside is you won't be able to use the infrared sort of to hold it up here to automatically sync it. So you would have to manually go in there and enter in what the frequency channel you are on. Minus side drawback. And the other, probably depending upon your usage, the other really big downside is that if you're buying the full rack size units, because as you can see this here are half rack units, so together they add up to one rack unit, and you've got sort of mounting brackets you can use to sort of mount this in as a rack unit with these ears on the side. You sort of screw this into the rack holes on the side of your case. The big downside is that because you can buy the QLXD series in a full rack size unit that gives you two receivers built into it, and you can buy the ULXD in a full rack size unit that either has dual receivers or quad receivers inside it. So if you're really space constrained and concerned about maximizing the most stuff you can into the smaller size, obviously the ULXD series is a benefit because you can put 4 channels into a single 1 RU space, yet no more than 2 with this. Of course, Lectrosonics is a step better here. They have got 6 in 1 RU, and they've also brought out their new product. What's their new product called? The DSQD, I think it is. That's new range, and that's a half rack unit size, so that's good because you could use it in your bag if you want to. But it's put 4 channels into that half rack unit, so you could actually put 8 channels into 1 RU. So that's really dense, space-saving concern. But anyway, being sidetracked. But the other really big benefit, depending upon your needs, is that ULXD has Dante built into their full rack size units. Dante, which is in capital letters, D-A-N-T-E, that's sort of digital audio networking. So rather than sending stuff over big long XLR cables, you can just use a LAN Ethernet cable and hook stuff up with another Dante equipped one, and it'll just be totally flawless audio quality connection from one point to the other. And you've also got ability to sort of route stuff around through the network switches and so forth. Now this all sounds really cool and great, but the thing is, I don't own a Dante enabled equipment of anything. I mean, my recorder isn't. I've got an 833. I need to get the 888 or the Sound Advisor Scorpio to get a Dante inputs. Now, I could think, well, I believe in myself in the near future. I am going to be upgrading to Sound Advisor's 888 as my bigger recorder, and I still have the 833 as the smaller recorder for smaller jobs. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be upgrading to that at some point in the future. But even if I did think about like, okay, let's go with only ULXD and not QLXD because I want to future-proof myself by having Dante into this equipment because I'm going to want to use Dante with other stuff in the future. That point still doesn't matter because the rack-sized versions of both QLXD and ULXD is only AC powered. There's no DC powering option. And this sort of ties back to what I was saying in my previous video before I got cut off by these annoying 30-minute restrictions, was that, wow, I'm already up to 13 minutes. See, I really just ramble on, don't I? Is that in the past, on the high-end equipment from Shure, the high-end equipment that professionals would want to use, you only could use AC powered. And again, AC powered is not a problem if you've got a permanent installation in a theatre or maybe in the local city council, or you're doing it for some corporate event, or even for some like big live production for Beyonce, because you'll have generators brought in. So there's no problem being AC powered. But for us, in our particular world that we work in as location sound recorders for TV, film, we have to have everything to be able to be DC powered, preferably 12 volts, which is what we normally have as our standard, on which point my AMD Ryzen 5 computer is going to be 19 volts, so I'm going to need a step up for that, because it does suck a bit more power. I have thought about maybe I should have gone with like Intel Gemini Lake processor instead. They'd be more power efficient, and I probably will at some point get both PCs put into my sound card. So I have the more power efficient Intel Gemini Lake or some similar super power efficient CPU, and the really powerful but more power hungry Ryzen 5, so that I'm able, if I want to be more battery conserving, I can use that. Because to be honest, the stuff we're doing, like running wireless workbench, whatever, isn't going to be that super power intensive. Plus also just having two computers is good. Each one acts as a backup to the other one. Or if I'm wanting to do two things at once, maybe I'm wanting to do playback on one computer and I'm wanting to monitor the wireless on the other one, I can just dedicate each one just for that purpose. So then I know that, if it starts to hang for a moment due to one of the other ones, it won't impact that other. But yeah, anyway, for now, I'm just going to get the Ryzen 5 PC, which I'm going to build into this. And where was I talking about? I was talking about how, everything was AC powered, everything on the high end. So that was one of the reasons that Shure Axient Digital started to take off. It's been popular with some high-end car productions, is that now they have DC option at last. And so it seems with both ULXD and with QLXD, set that back to front, they only have the DC option, which is 12 volts. Yay, 12 volts being what I want everything to be. It does make it easier. I don't need to step stuff up or down. They only have the 12 volts powering if it is the half rack sized options. So that's why I thought, okay, once I sort of did that research and I found out, like, I'm not giving up anything really by giving up Dante unless there's some future possibilities. But what I'm gaining is so essential, DC powered. I'm obviously going to be going for the half RUs. And the thing is, once you've got half RUs, the half RU version of the ULXD doesn't have Dante. So in essence, it ends up being very similar in how it operates with the QLXD. Because the QLXD, the big downside is it doesn't have Dante. Well, half RU version of this doesn't have Dante either. Anyway, so I've got two of them that together add up to a one RU slot that will fit into here. And the other thing is they're quite wide tuning range. Like if I look at this, for instance, this is an L50 band, and it tunes from 632 to 696 megahertz. That's like what, 2.5 Lectrosonics blocks? So that's, I guess, one benefit. You have quite a wide range of frequencies to choose on. But it does mean between the two, because I chose this one to be L50 and this one is J50 band, together they're covering almost the entire frequency range that I would want to look at. So I can hook this up to Shure's wireless workbench and I'm able to sort of natively, instantly look at the whole RF spectrum of everything that I'm wanting to use. And yeah, there was another thing that sort of pushed me, if I haven't said it already, that Shure has wireless workbench, which by all reports, it seems it is a better product than Lectrosonics wireless designer. But anyway, I will be able to run both natively and not needing to do, export the SCCV file from one and then put it into the other package, software package. So yeah, so here's my RU, my rack unit based stuff, and my case is 4 rack units because that's what I could get easily in New Zealand. And that's exactly 4. Although, like I'm saying, if I'm not needing to add in heaps more channels with Lectrosonics SRs and 411s as well, I'm probably going to ditch this and just have my IEM transmitters, which is also an RU underneath here, and I will sort of have sit behind in the spare space at the back my PC. Probably can't fit the battery that will power this inside the case. I'll probably put the big like lithium, sorry, not lithium, LiPo 4. I'll probably put the big LiPo 4 battery down at the bottom of that because there won't be space up here, and I also put the extra weight for just balance of the card if I have it lower down. Yeah, I've got like a 200 or 300 watt hour battery. I probably should get a second one, especially once I add that Ryzen computer. Yeah, that's just going to be powering the whole system. Yeah, now that I'm up to, wow, nearly 20 minutes, it's like I can actually see my screen, although it won't be that long when I upload it to YouTube because I'll cut off the first little bit at the start when I'm just staring at the camera going, breathe in deeply, get ready, psych yourself up and start talking. There's a bit of stuff to cut off at the start of the video. Anyway, feel free to just ask me any questions about anything I talked about in this video or the previous video, and I will, because I read all the comments and I reply to most of them. most of them, but I'll definitely reply to yours. So yeah, just ask, and I'll do some more about this once I've actually got it out, implemented and put together, and being out used in the field. I'm really looking forward to this.